Well, hello friends, and welcome to Ask Zach. Today we are down at Dan Strain, aka you know him as Danocaster. We're at his shop, and we had a wide variety of 50s, 60s, and 70s Fenders. And so I kind of wanted to take a chance to show you the difference between nitro and polyurethane, polyester kind of finishes. And don't think I'm saying I'm an all-out expert here. There's some things that we just don't know because we weren't there when these were made, but we're gonna try not to jump to a bunch of conclusions and just gonna show you some examples. And really the big transition year is 1968. That's kind of where you're gonna see a big change in the finish. Actually, some happens a little bit before that, but you're just gonna see it as we go. So starting off, this is Dan Strain's 1957 Telecaster, and I want you to see the amazing checking that's on this and the amount of rust that's on the bridge and the control plate. This is a really gorgeous guitar, and I want you to also notice the checking. You know, actually not a whole lot of checking on the headstock and neck. And just the way it looks. Also, I'm gonna flip this bad boy over. I love the wear on this. I love the the pitting on the neck plate. I love this wear. This guitar is notable because this is the model for the Dan's .88 soft V neck. The measurements and such are taken from this guitar. All right, so we've seen the 57. We're gonna jump forward and we're gonna get a 67 Tele. All right, so now we've jumped a whole decade. So now on this, there's probably what's called fuller plast underneath here. And we don't know if that's some type of poly or what, but you can see like this white undercoat here. And then of course, this is a blonde finish, but you can tell this blonde is pretty different from the blonde that we saw on Dan's 57. Again, this is my 67 Tele. And here you can see on the neck, it's got a fair amount of wear and such. And then there's some fine checking on the headstock. Now this is really the tail end of nitro finishes on the neck, because not long after this you're going to see that. You're also on the finishes on the body. It seems like not long after this in 68 you start seeing finishes that are glossier blonde. So we're going to switch out to a Bigsby Tele of mine. And so now we've got both of them. So here we've got my 67, and this one of course has been modified a bit, but you can see that the finish is darker. It's less kind of wheat looking. And I wonder how much of it has to do with smoke and such, or how much has to do with this finish actually being different, because this seems to be a hardier finish that's on this somewhat later 67 Tele body. So, but yeah, they definitely are aging differently, and the finishes look very different, especially as you look at the body, the back. And here you can see the back here. All right, let's take this and let's grab the 1969 neck. All right, so now we're going to compare necks that are less than 2 years apart. So here you have the 67 neck that looks to be all lacquer, and then you have the 69 neck that is pretty definitely a poly neck. Again, You go back and forth, even up to the headstock. You don't see any checking at all. It does have wear. The frets are actually completely gone on this neck. But here, you just go right over here to the 67 neck, and you see all this checking and such. Of course, this is when they first returned to the actual maple neck, where it's got the skunk stripe. This one does not. Yeah, so 68 seems to be when these necks stop having the lacquer nitro finish, and it seems like mid 68 or so, and definitely by 69 it seems to be a mostly polyester finish. Now we're going to see some examples where the headstock is a darker color, and I think we're going to pull out a 72 Strat now. Okay, so this is a 1972 Strat, and as you can see, this has a lot of cool checking on it. And with this, it would be easy to think, is this a combination of poly and lacquer? We don't know, but that's what kind of my assumption is, because it has this really cool, cracking in the finish, and it seems like it could be poly with a lacquer coat that's over the top. This is an all original 72 Strat of Dan's. And here's where you get really interesting. So here up on the headstock, you're going to see how much darker the headstock is. And that's because they were using the poly finish on the neck, and then they would put the logo on, and then they would just spray lacquer over top. And so this one has gotten a lot darker, probably because it's seen more UV rays. And so this one does not. This one is pretty much the same color. It might be a touch darker than the rest. So, and we're gonna show one more. We're gonna bring the Bigsby Telly back, and we're gonna show it and show how it has aged. This one, again, this is an older body, but this neck is probably a 73 to 75 neck. And so when you get up here, you can see that same thing, where the headstock is darker than the rest because of the lacquer that was put on there, and it just ages more. And it seems to be the later in the 70s, or at least past 71 or so, it just seems like you see a lot of this, where the headstock just gets a lot darker. And sometimes the fingerboard with the poly on it will still look like a bowling alley floor or something like that. But yeah, these are really cool. I just thought you guys would enjoy getting a chance to see some of these finishes and just how different they can look and how they age differently, and also just kind of help you in kind of being able to identify nitro versus polyurethane / polyester finishes. And I have no qualms about playing a guitar that has a poly finish versus a nitro finish. No problem with that at all. I think it's either a good guitar or it's not a good guitar. I'll say this, so this is a 69 neck again, and it is most definitely a poly finish, but it's really thin and really hard. It's not that gooped on finish that you start getting much later. In the late 70s, you start getting this really gooped on finish, but this poly neck has a really good feel. It doesn't feel overly sticky or anything like that. And then just for giggles, we'll look at the neck heel. And of course, you see 3, which is the code for Telecaster, MAR, which is for March, and then you have 69, which is the year, and then B, which is the standard width of 1 5/8. And yeah, people sometimes mistakenly think it's the 3rd of March, but no, it's then that would make it where most of the necks made throughout the 60s were all made on the same day on different months. But yeah, later on you get different stamp codes that some of them have similar designations, but then there's another one that's on this 73 to 75 neck that's a lot harder to decipher. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at nitro versus poly, and Dan's dog giving us a little bark to say that they're still there. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.